Hi everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to share some inspiration with you using the Newton's Nook Frozen Fellowship stamp set. This stamp set is so adorable. I love the snowmen in this set. Here's a close-up look of the snowmen that are included in the Frozen Fellowship set. There's also a couple of really cute sentiments, but I am going to use a different stamp set for the sentiments on this card. So I've got the images stamped down onto some Canson Bristol paper. I really love using this paper with my Copic markers because I find it does not bleed very easily and the colors blend really nicely. I'm coloring my images with Copic markers because, like I said, I was talking about this paper. And I really wanted to create a really fun color effect on these snowmen, and I wanted to have a lot of color in the images. So I started off by coloring the snowmen blue. I added some blue shading to the snowmen. Now you could use gray or another light color. Purple would also be a really cool color to use. I wanted something that was going to give the snowmen depth so they weren't flat white, but I also wanted something that wasn't going to be super colorful so that they looked colorful and not white anymore. So I used a very light blue and I blended it out with my colorless blender. I used some yellow for their noses, and then for all of their accessories I used a bunch of different colors ranging from red, I used green, a teal blue, purple, and just a bunch of different colors that really look nice together, bright and happy. And I colored all of the different accessories with those same colors. I have all the colors that I used listed over at my blog, so if you're interested in that, I do have that over there so you can check those out. I didn't use tons of markers on the images. I kept the shading very simple. I used about 2 colors for every image. And then for their cheeks, I used a bit of pink and blended that out with a really light pink color. Now right here, I messed up as I started to add some black detailing with a jelly roll pen. This was a black jelly roll pen. You'll notice that the one snowman had a smudge on his eye. I was able to fix that with a white gel pen, and then after I fixed the snowmen and their little buttons and eyes dried, I took my scissors and fussy cut those little snowmen out. Now I wanted to create a fun card design, so I used a really tall piece of watercolor paper. This was 3.5 inches by about 8 inches. And this watercolor paper has a nice texture to it, and I used this in particular because I'm going to do some ink blending over top of it and then add some splatters and other different effects. So I started off by adding yellow. Now the reason I chose yellow was because I wanted a really kind of golden color underneath the snowman. This yellow color is not going to end up showing through too much, but it's a nice layer underneath all of the blue that I'm going to add over top of it, and it kind of warms it up a little bit and kind of creates a glow. So this is a base color that I'm adding underneath of my blue ink blending that I'm adding here. I used tumbled glass blueprint sketch, which looks a little bit more like chipped sapphire here as you add it over top of the yellow, but that's because of the effect that you're getting with the warmer tone. Then I also used some seedless preserves as the darkest color. Here you can see that blueprint sketch looking a bit more true to its original color. So I blended these colors onto my paper here, and I'm making sure to get a really nice good concentration of color because I want this to be a very vibrant background. As I'm adding the color, I'm making sure to leave that center area, which is going to be peeking out around the snowman, not as dark as what I'm adding the color here. Here I'm making sure to really darken up that color because I want the top part of the card to be super dark and vibrant, and then as it gradually goes down into where that yellow is, that's going to be a lot more lighter. And you can see as we're adding that color onto the yellow ink that we've added there, it warms up that area and you've got that glow effect. Now I'm adding some water splatters, and I do notice that certain papers react a bit more with the distress inks than others. This is a scrap that I had sitting out and I don't know which brand it was. I want to say it might have been a Be Creative paper. I'm not positive, but I didn't have the same reaction that I normally get. The colors actually started to bloom instead of creating just water splatters, but I really liked it. I think it created a really fun texture to the background. Now right now I'm bringing in the Prima Metallic Accents watercolors. These I love using over top of color that I've already added down. For this particular case, I'm going to use them mostly for splatter effects. I took my larger paintbrush. This was one of the Zen watercolor paintbrushes from Royal and Langnickel, and I added some of that blue splatter onto the background. Then I'll dry that and add in a bit more splatter, this time using the purple. I believe this one's ultraviolet. I really love the purple color. It's one of my favorites out of the whole palette. I again added splatters. This time I'm using a slightly smaller brush and I'm getting slightly smaller splatters because I don't have as much water on the brush. Then finally I'm going to add some of that white color. But the white color I'm going to put down onto a palette first, and I'm going to spread that out a little bit and get quite a bit of color on there so that I can pick it up with a sponge. The sponge I misted with some water first to get it a little bit wet, and I'm going to use the sponge to create texture. You can get these sponges and they come in a variety of different styles. You can usually get them in a variety pack. And I'm going to pounce that watercolor into the background. Now right now you're not noticing it too much because it's still wet. Once I heat set this and the color starts to dry, you'll really notice that metallic starting to show through, as you can see here. It creates this really cool metallic texture in the background, and because we pounced it on, we get this really neat effect with the combination of the splatters and then the pouncing texture. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to bring in a sentiment now. This sentiment is from this really great sentiment stamp set from Newton's Nook Designs. It's a newer stamp set. And I'm going to stamp this down in some lipstick red ink from Simon Says Stamp. This red matches really nice with some of the red colors that I used in the snowmen. I'm going to stamp this down twice to make sure I get a nice crisp impression. I really like the Misty tool for this because that allows you to get some really nice stamped images and fix any stamping that you might have messed up. I'm going to add these both down onto my background using some foam tape. I used foam tape on the back side of the snowman. I covered the entire panel, and then I added a few smaller strips behind the sentiment. I'm going to pop these up along the bottom of the card, and I find this is easiest if I go ahead and line these up along my desk and line up those flat edges together, so that way I get a nice perfect alignment of the snowmen attached down onto my panel, and I don't have to worry about anything being crooked. Again, like I said, I'll attach that sentiment down as well. And now I'm finally getting ready to add some embellishments. Before I do that first though, I'm going to go ahead and attach my card panel down onto the base that I've got cut here. This is a really beautiful dark purple color that matched the seedless preserves really nicely. It also has a nice texture to it, which also matches up with the watercolor paper that I used also. I also wanted to add in a sentiment to the inside of the card. This sentiment is also from that same Newton's Nook sentiment stamp set. I'm going to prep the surface of my paper first with my powder tool to make sure I get powder and any static off of the paper. Then I'll take my sentiment and stamp this down in some clear ink because I am going to heat emboss this. After I've stamped the sentiment, I'll take some Brutus Monroe alabaster white embossing powder. This embossing powder is a really nice embossing powder. I wanted to try it. It's new to the Simon Says Stamp shop. And I thought I'd pick a couple of those embossing powders up and try them out. I usually use the Ranger White embossing powder, but both of these are fine detail, and I've enjoyed using both the Ranger White and also this one. Here's my embellishments. These snowflakes from Studio Katia are so much fun. I actually kind of, in hindsight, might have changed this up and might have used something a little bit more contrasting to the background because I do feel the snowflakes got a little bit lost, but I tried to balance that out by using some enamel accents and creating some white dots around the snowflakes. So in the end, I was happy with how the card turned out, but I think if I was going to do this card again, I would probably change which snowflakes I used in place of those Studio Katia ones, simply because the Studio Katia ones are clear, and I wanted something a little bit more brighter now that I'm looking at the card. Now I did want to add a little bit of extra fun to the sentiment, so I did take my Copic marker in a color that matched the sentiment really nicely, and I added a little heart in place of the little eye on holidays. That's going to finish up this card, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the really fun Frozen Fellowship Snowmen stamp set from Newton's Nook Designs in action. I really have enjoyed coloring this snowman set, and I think it is so much fun to be able to use this in creating some really cute and fun winter cards. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. If you enjoyed, here are 2 more videos you might like featuring some Newton's Nook Designs products. I will see you again very soon with another video, and until then, have a great day. Bye!